And I did that because with this lecture, I like to set the tone, because this lecture is all about the love. Well, actually, minimally lovable product. And that's, what is it about your product that customers love? And that's how you get sales. There's a lot of talk about minimally viable product, MVP. The thing about MVP is there are certain limitations to it. And yes, it's very viable in terms of how you release products and thinking about features and things like that. But before you even think about what features to start carving in and out, you need to understand what it is your product is in the mind of the customer. And subsequently, once you understand that, that's what positioning is about. Positioning is about how do they think of you. So the basic concept of this lecture is, when do we launch? And what do we launch into? And how do we capture that mind space in terms of the customer? The thing is, in terms of segmentation, how does it all fit into this process? And so for the entrepreneur, this is what it is. In terms of entrepreneurship, it all starts with an idea. And so the example I'm using is what's called a closed-loop control pump, meaning drug pumps are the size of lunch boxes. They're very heavy and they're very large. Instead, what Dr. Cho did is he found some innovative sensor technology where you can shrink it down to the size of a cell phone. And the other big advantage of this device also is that they're very fine mechanical mechanisms in a pump. In effect, what Dr. Cho did is he made a digital watch that could be cheap. So the thing is, once you start with your idea, it requires thought. You have to do research, you do planning with your team, and then the big question is, who do I sell to? And this is where segmentation comes in. And you segment because without it, the world is too big. And so what do? We looked at potential customers, and then within those customers, we picked out specific segments that we wanted to target that we thought would be really receptive to this. They either had a lot of pain or there were gaps. And so there was this huge opportunity. The thing is, every one of those subsections, you do a profile, like what size is it, how much do they spend, are they located in any specific areas. You also have to think about international. So I need to go out and talk to customers. And so there are a number of different techniques, whether it's interviews or surveys. And what I need to do is find my early adopters, which in TEM we call the cult. Now, who are these early adopters? Dr. Cho once dated a girl, and this girl did not like flowers, she did not like candy, and she did not like alcohol. And so Dr. Cho's are like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? What am I going to bring her? So I showed up to our date, and she said, and I proudly said, here, this is for you. And she took it, and she's like, and she said, what is this? And I said, it's a ham. And she said, a ham? And I said, yeah, well, you said you didn't like candy, you didn't like flowers, you like alcohol. So I got you a ham. And she said to me, you were a very strange person. Well, subsequently, that relationship didn't last very long. And so when I met my wife, I told my wife that story. And she said, what's wrong with her? A ham is a great gift. And all of a sudden, Dr. Cho was like, whoa! It's like, this girl has possibilities. But that's what your early adopters are, your cult. These are the people, and these are actually your friends. These are the people who get you, who understand you, who for good or bad and your warts and everything else, just love you all the same. And that's what the cult is about. So you think you're going to sell oodles and oodles of things, and you're all excited, and you've picked all these good segments, and instead this is what you end up with. And the thing is, you get one person who says, it's like a car. Well, can this car do 80 miles an hour? And then someone else says, I want this car to do 200. And all of a sudden, those aren't the same market. They're separate markets. Because if you truly have the same market, they're going to be asking for close to the same thing. And then all of a sudden now you find out all these people who you thought were behind you when it comes time to pay up. They don't want to spend money, or they keep bragging about how many they'll buy and they only want to buy a couple. And so you get all these problems and issues. And so what it turns out, your segments that you thought were so great really weren't that great. However, what do? Quit? No. You pivot and plow on. That's what entrepreneurs do. And then eventually, through your own research, through your own work, you'll find an opportunity. And for us, the big opportunities, I mean, we thought, renal care and critical care and everybody else would be no-brainers. And we got lukewarm responses. And we're like, holy crap. And then the thing is, and this is why you make contacts, this is why you make friends. And this nurse said to us, hey, do you guys want to talk to the neonatal unit? And then we're kind of there like, well, yeah, sure, why not? We didn't even have neonatals on the list. And then here's the big secret. The way this pump makes money is there's a sensor attached to it, a flow sensor, and it's disposable. So in effect, that flow sensor is our razor blade. That's how we make money. And then we found out that in neonatal units, and these are premature babies, they get 8 feedings a day. And all of a sudden you start calculating it out, and you find out that in a 40-bed hospital, there's a potential to sell close to 100,000 disposables a year. And that's one hospital. There are 4,000 hospitals in the United States alone, and we're even not touching international. All of a sudden you see, wow, this is a big opportunity. And that's the thing about this product is that it wasn't one feature that they loved. It was lots of features. First of all, in a neonatal unit, you need a lot of pumps. This was cheap. Not only that, our pump was very precise. It had long life and reliability, and these are all problems they had. So it wasn't one thing they loved. What they loved is people don't love features. People love solutions. That is what they value. They really don't give a crap that it has these features. What they give a crap about is, does it fix my problems? And that's about what minimal lovable product is. And once you find out what's lovable about your product, then you can figure out what are the simplest set of features you can come out with to get your product out there. The thing is, you think Steve Jobs ever sat around thinking about, let's talk about minimally viable product? No. Steve Jobs believed that you can't tell how a customer is going to respond to your product until you put it into his hands. We talked about total adjustable market, and the thing is, you can either go top down or bottoms up. Where bottoms up is you start counting noses. You start looking at individual people. The thing about top-down approach, now, bottom-up approach in terms of counting noses, this is where you're doing surveys and things like that. And the top-down approach is you use published reports, data that already exists. The thing is, sometimes you can't find that data. And actually, I was trying to figure out, we were thinking about putting our flow sensor onto a syringe. And the reason why is there a ton, think about in a hospital, how many times you use a syringe. And so if I could come up with a disposable sensor that's going to record exactly how much got injected into a patient, then hook that up with a wireless module, they'll basically send out the information that this drug at this time and this amount was delivered. That has a lot of value. But the thing is, I spent hours trying to find out how many syringes are sold in the United States, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't find it. So what you do, and this is where the value chain becomes important. A connection to the value chain. Something has to happen between that volume from one step to another. Either it's going to double, it's going to stay the same, it's going to go down. But regardless, if I know one, then that tells me the other. And so, needles. I said, forget about number of syringes. In hospitals, every time they use a syringe, there's got to be a needle somewhere. And then what I found out is that we use 7.8 billion needles a year. So in terms of marketing, we talk about what's the beachhead, and that's who's going to be your first customer. And that's the thing, when you are selling, especially a new product, focus on customer 1, then focus on customer 1,000. Get the first sales. Why? Because you learn an awful lot. You are going through a learning curve. So the faster you can get through the learning curve, the better. So why do we do MLP? Why do I believe it's so important? And the reason why is because you can come out with a product and the customer tells you, oh yeah, I want this, 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 and this. You give it to them. And guess what? They get bored. This is why 80% of all apps are used like 3 times and then discarded. They get bored with their products. The thing is, the products you love, you don't get bored with. Like if you love your car, the dashboard and everything else and how it feels, you love getting into your car every time. Dr. Cho's tastes tend to run towards Japanese design just because it's clear, it's simple. Some people prefers things more kludgy, convoluted. It's part of the reason why I hate American cars. I've done a lot of traveling. Let me tell you, there's nothing more annoying. You're looking for the trunk button, and then you found out it's in the glove compartment. The glove compartment, really? But anyway, the thing is, when you focus on features, you get false positives. Meaning people say, oh yeah, I want that, I love it. And then what happens when you actually do it? No, on second thought, I don't think I want it. The thing about if you focus on features alone, they obsolesce. Think about the Zune versus the iPod, for those of you who remember Microsoft's Zune. Functionally, they did exactly the same thing, but the iPod was a much, much different experience than the Zune was. People loved the iPod, people didn't love the Zune. And so you start out with, figure out what your MLP is, and then do your MVP. And the thing is, knowing what value that your customer looks at your product with, you understand now the perception. And an example of MLP is, again, this is M33 Smart Desk that I talk about. And the thing what they did is there's no one single feature. Actually, the core of this is that if you're a designer and you need a high-level computer, the problem is that all computers, what do? They shrink and make it small as possible. The problem with shrinking with it is chips are sensitive to heat. The smaller I make something, the harder it is to get rid of the heat. And therefore, I'm limited in what chips I can use, like my graphics processor and things like that. So inherently, I have limitations on what kind of computer I can make. By integrating it into the desk, they can use high-end graphics processors, more RAM. Essentially, that's the core of it. They can make a really souped-up computer and at the same time add in all the other features. Well, we'll stop here.